Imagine standing on your front porch with an overdue mortgage notice in one hand and a knot in your stomach, convinced that your only choices are to beg the bank for a loan modification or brace yourself for the long, painful slide into foreclosure. What many homeowners never realize is that the rules of the game include another move, the short sale, a strategy that can soften the financial blow, shave years off a credit recovery timeline, and even give you a measure of control over how and when you leave the house you once loved. A short sale flips the normal math of real estate transactions on its head. Instead of pricing the property high and negotiating down, you price it below what you still owe on the mortgage, disclose that gap to every interested buyer, and ask the lender to accept the lower payoff in exchange for avoiding the legal marathon of foreclosure. Picture a mortgage balance of $200,000 on a house the market now values at only $150,000. That $50,000 deficit becomes the focal point of every discussion because the bank must agree to erase it or at least promise not to chase you for it later. The only real incentive for the lender is cost avoidance. Foreclosure drags on for months, sometimes years, racks up court fees, maintenance expenses, and the risk of vandalism, while a cooperative sale can wrap up in a fraction of the time and keep the property occupied and insured until closing day. Even so, choosing a short sale is not as simple as planting a sign in the yard. The process begins with proof that your hardship is genuine. Banks want bank statements, tax returns, medical bills, credit card summaries, anything that shows income has dropped or expenses have spiked in a way that makes continued payments unrealistic. You present that thick packet to the loss mitigation department and request a pause on any foreclosure timeline already in motion. If there is a second mortgage, a home equity line, or any other lien, every affected creditor must give the same green light, because all of them will be carving up a smaller pie once the sale closes. During this early stage, you also reach out to a housing counselor, approved by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The conversation can feel humbling, but counselors know the workout options that might keep you in the property, and they can confirm whether a short sale really is the least damaging escape route. Next comes a real estate agent who has closed these deals before. Experience matters because paperwork, disclosure language, and timelines differ from ordinary listings. A real estate attorney rounds out the advisory team, translating lender addendums, state-specific deficiency judgment laws, and tax implications into plain English, so you do not trade one crisis for another. Once the house hits the market, the dance feels familiar to any seller. Showings, offers, negotiations. The twist is that buyers must understand the clock will tick longer than usual. Your signature alone is not enough. The bank reviews the contract, analyzes market data to be sure the price is fair, and sometimes orders its own appraisal. Patience becomes a daily mantra. 3 months to reach the closing table is common, 6 months not unheard of, but those delays are still shorter than the average judicial foreclosure, which in some states can drag on for more than a year. For many owners, the most pressing question is how a short sale dents a credit report compared with foreclosure. Credit scoring models treat both as serious delinquencies. Yet, empirical studies suggest the score often rebounds faster after a completed short sale, partly because delinquent mortgage reporting tends to stop once the house transfers, whereas foreclosure reporting can linger through court judgments and public record updates. That faster rebound can mean qualifying for another mortgage in as little as 2 years, versus up to 7 after a foreclosure, depending on loan type. The downside is that you, not the bank, shoulder the grunt work. You stage the property, schedule showings, and keep utilities on. You negotiate repairs even when you know there is no equity to reimburse you. And unless your state bars deficiency judgments, you still need written confirmation, usually called a deficiency waiver, that the lender will not turn around and sue for the unpaid difference. Even when litigation is off the table, the Internal Revenue Service may view any forgiven balance as taxable income, a shock that arrives the following spring in the form of a 199C. Consulting a tax professional before signing anything is not just prudent, it is essential. Some homeowners hesitate because they have heard horror stories of predatory short sale negotiators promising huge discounts in exchange for upfront fees. While legitimate third-party processors do exist, many states require licensing, bonding, or attorney oversight for anyone who charges to interface with lenders. Always verify credentials, read reviews, and remember that most of the legwork can be handled by a qualified agent and attorney without side deals that drain the very funds you're trying to salvage. Meanwhile, buyers circling short sales see opportunity in that lower price tag. But they, too, face a learning curve. The property is almost always sold as is, which means deferred maintenance becomes the buyer's problem the minute the deed records. Lenders weigh offers not only on price, but likelihood of closing. So cash or fully underwritten loan pre-approvals rise to the top of the pile. Even after an offer is accepted in writing, weeks can slip by while servicers obtain investor consent. In hot markets, a buyer might spend more on rent extensions or rate lock fees than the discount ultimately saves. Yet, in slower markets, the patience can yield five-figure equity from day one. Alternatives still exist and should be explored. A temporary forbearance could pause payments long enough for income to recover. A repayment plan might spread arrears across future installments. A permanent modification could lower the interest rate, extend the term, or even forgive principal, allowing you to keep the house. Deed in lieu of foreclosure offers a simpler surrender of title, and, in rare situations, an assumable mortgage lets a qualified buyer step into your loan without the short sale drama. Bankruptcy remains the nuclear option, capable of halting foreclosure and buying time, though it reshapes a financial life for years. Choosing among these paths is never purely mathematical. Emotion seeps into every decision. A foreclosure notice tacked to the door can feel like public humiliation, whereas a short sale lets you appear as an ordinary seller, schedule your move on your own terms, and perhaps negotiate a modest relocation stipend from the bank. That emotional breathing room carries value that does not show up on a balance sheet. When the closing finally happens, the sense of relief can be profound. The keys pass to the buyer, the mortgage is marked settled for less than owed, and you step away without the sheriff's auction, the padlocked door, or the months of legal notices. Your credit report will bear the scar, but each on-time payment on other accounts begins knitting the wound almost immediately. In 2 or 3 years, many former owners find they can qualify for a new mortgage, often on better terms than the loan that triggered the crisis in the first place. That future stability begins with a single decision: refusing to see foreclosure as inevitable and insisting on understanding every tool in the toolbox. The short sale occupies a middle ground, not a perfect solution, not cost-free, but a viable exit ramp when the road ahead seems to offer nothing but dead ends. Learn the paperwork, recruit the right professionals, document your hardship, and keep the lines of communication with your lender open from the first missed payment. Do that, and you convert a looming disaster into a controlled retreat, clearing the way for a faster financial comeback and, eventually, a new set of keys and a front door you can truly afford.